Temptation is more than the urge to do wrong. It's that unique, quiet moment when desire steps into the room and locks and looks into your purpose. It's the whisper that tests whether desire or discipline rules the heart. I'm Thomas E. Cunningham, and tonight on The Eve Effect, we're asking a question that just might change the way you see temptation. What if the voice in your head isn't always you? What if some of the thoughts you were battling aren't your thoughts at all? So if you ever wondered why your mind sometimes feel like a war zone, this conversation will change everything that you see and thought of about temptation. Stay right here. Welcome to The Eve Effect, where we take a fresh look at an old story so you can better understand your own. I'm Thomas E. Cunningham, pastor, author of If Only Eve Would Talk, and a Christian life coach. This live podcast is all about honest, real-life conversations, not sermons, conversations sparked by Eve's story in Genesis chapter 3 and what it stirs up in all of us. So whether you've been walking with God for years, you're new to faith, or just curious, you're welcome at this table. Tonight, I want to open our conversation and take a look at our thoughts, desires, and the inner battle. Learning to discern, recognize, and to know who's really talking. After counseling hundreds of people over many decades, I can say this with confidence, that most have never been taught how to tell the difference. And if you can't tell them apart, you'll follow the wrong one. So what if some of the thoughts you're battling, the accusations, the doubts, the fears, aren't all your thoughts? How do you know which voice is which? Because here's what nobody tells you. Every day, voices are competing for your attention. And if you don't know how to tell them apart, you'll end up following the wrong one and living in chaos without even realizing why. Many treat every thought like it's their own. Treat every accusation like it's true. Every doubt like it's valid. So we want to look into that tonight to determine whose voice it is. So before we start discussing at the table, let me know you're here tonight. Drop a fire sign, the eye emojis, thumbs up. If you're locked in, let me know you're locked in at the table. Good to see those who are logging in. Let me know you're locked in. Okay, see Bruce, Untamed JB, Misha Stallings. It's just my opinion. All right. Lacey, all right. Just Jazz. The fire sign. Let me know you're locked into the table. Last week, I didn't know if you were going to leave the table. We were getting kind of thick in our conversation. So it's good to see you here. Cece, good to see you. Daria, love, good to see you. For those who have been staying at the table, it is good to see you all. Here's our start question. Have you ever had a thought that felt so real, so strong, so loud that you acted on it and later realized that wasn't even me? Have you ever had a thought that felt so real, so strong, so loud that you acted on it only to realize later that it wasn't even me. That's our question that we're going to start off tonight while we're around the table discussing this topic called temptation. The first question on the table is, have you ever had a thought that felt so real, so strong, so loud that you acted on it and later realized that wasn't even me? It's a good question. I see some answers there. Good to see everyone sitting at the table for this discussion tonight. The voice in your head, who's really talking? Who's really talking? Temptation doesn't always start with what you do. Sometimes it starts with what you believe. It begins with a thought that sounds convincing. Thoughts like, you're not that good. Nobody really cares. You might as well give up. You'll never change. If you try it, you may like it. Thoughts like that, voices like that. Or voices like this, God is disappointed in you. And that's why we have to stop and ask the question, where did that thought come from? Let me tell you, not every thought is truth. Not every thought deserves your belief. And not every thought deserves a seat at your table. Let me say that again. Not every thought is truth. Not every thought and voice you hear deserves your belief. And not every thought or voice you hear deserves a seat at your table. Eve understood that moment in the garden. That one lie sounded like just one bite. That one lie. To Eve, it sounded like, just take a bite. No harm will be done. But that one exception opened the door to distrust, to disobedience, to shame, that changed everything. All right, we at the table now. We might as well talk. Some thoughts are lies dressed up as truth. Some attacks disguised as self-reflection. And if you don't learn to discern the source, you'll drink the poison and call it water. Can I get a thumbs up? Anyone at the table can agree that sometimes the voice disguises itself as truth. And here's the trap. We tend to assume that if we think it, it must be true. That's the trap. If we think it, it must be true. If it's in my mind, it must be true. But not every thought should be trusted. What you have to do is you have to capture it, examine it, and test it. Because not every voice should be trusted. Let's take a quick poll while we're sitting here. Have you ever been taught how to discern which voice is which? Chat yes, no, or never thought about it. Have you ever been taught how to discern which voice is which? Type yes, no, or never thought about it. Yes, no, or never thought about it. Okay, I see some no's. Have you ever been taught how to discern which voice is which? All right, someone put never thought about it. Yes, no, or never. Okay, yes. All right. Now that's the problem. Many of us never been trained to recognize the thoughts. Many of us were never taught how to discern which is which. And when the voice and the thought come, we believe one, that is truth. And if I thought about it, it must belong to me. So let's go back to Genesis chapter 3 and watch how this plays out in Eve's story. Because this is where the voices started competing. We can look at Eve's story. This whole discussion is about Eve's story and what Eve experienced in the garden. And if we go back to Eve's story, we'll begin to see where the voices started competing. If you go back to Genesis chapter 3 in the book, I begin to write and expose the voices. If you look at Genesis chapter 3, it says, now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. It goes on, the discussion in the garden says, and the serpent said to the woman. Then if you read on in the conversation, it says, and she said. And then you look a little bit more, they both knew what God said. This isn't just temptation appearing out of nowhere. This is a voice, a conversation. This is words and thoughts being planted in Eve's mind. And now Eve has a choice. Which thought am I going to believe? And the voice she listens to determined everything that came next. And that same thing is still happening today. The serpent said, Eve said, but God said. 3 different voices, and having to discern which voice is a voice of truth. Let me put it this way. Not every thought in your head is trustworthy. Not every thought in your head is trustworthy. Some thoughts line up with truth. Some thoughts grow out of your fears, your pain, or your desires. And some thoughts are flat out lies. But learning to tell the difference between the voices, learning to tell the difference between what Eve was thinking, what the serpent was saying, and what God was actually saying is what makes temptation so dangerous. Being able to determine and discern which voice is talking. Are you still at the table? Give me a thumbs up. If you're still at the table, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you're still at the table. All right. Somebody just type in, don't get up. Don't get up. Stay right there. Don't get up from the table. Stay right there. Stay right there. Stay right there. Don't get up. In the garden, Eve didn't just face a wrong action, she faced a believable lie. The thought sounded small, but it opened the door to distrust and disobedience. Don't get up. So the question is not just what am I thinking, but also where did that thought come from? Not just what am I thinking, but where did that thought come from? Where did that thought come from? All right, let me ask this question for the room. Do people usually struggle more with the action or the thought before the action? Type action or thought. Do people usually struggle more with the action or the thought before the action? Okay. Someone said the thought before. All right. The thought. All right. All right. The thought before. All right. Someone said action. The thought. All right. Do people usually struggle more with the action or the thought before the action? That's good. I like the answers I'm saying. You're being honest at the table. If you're going to sit at the table, you might as well be honest. If you're going to be at the table, be honest. There's no judgment here. We're all talking about this topic, temptation. But I want to ask you something. What if the thing tempting you is not just trying to get your attention, but your agreement? Drop the eye emojis in the chat. What if the thing that's tempting you is not just trying to get your attention, it's trying to also get your agreement? It's trying to get you to agree. I see a lot of eye emojis. I like it. All right. I like that. Not just trying to get your attention, but your agreement. Maybe temptation is trying to just get you to agree with the voice that you need this, that this will add value, that this will bring and give you the pleasure you've always been looking for. So the thing tempting you may not just be trying to get your attention, but your agreement. What if that temptation keeps winning because the lies sounds familiar? The lies sound familiar. What if the forbidden fruit keeps surviving because it sounds like something you want? Uh-oh. I done shook the table now. Could it be that that temptation or that fruit keeps surviving because it sounds like something you want? Maybe that's why temptation keeps winning. Because you know it's forbidden, but it keeps surviving because it sounds like something you want. Okay. Before because making a choice raises anxiety in one. Okay. All right. I like this. Someone said, pushing the chair back. All right. Stay at the table. Stay at the table. Stay at the table. I like it. Have you wondered why the voice keeps returning? Why it seems like the temptation keeps winning? Because the lie sounds familiar. Well, then why is what I trying to deny keep surviving? Because it sounds like something you want. Sounds like something you want. The voice in your head, who's really talking? Eve in the garden, Eve already recognized God's voice, but now here is the serpent's voice, and now her voice. And you can get so caught up that now you can't discern whose voice is talking. And the fruit keeps surviving because it sounds like something you want. That's how the lie worked on Eve in the garden. So you have to identify the thought. You got to run the thought through tests and not give every thought your trust. Run it through the test. Whose voice is this? Is this something that's trying to survive when I've already forbidden it? You have to identify the thought, the voices, identify them, run them through the test, and not give every thought your trust. Just because a thought pops up doesn't mean you have to believe it. And just because a thought shows up doesn't mean it belongs there. Lies feel powerful when they sound familiar. And shame can grow quietly when you don't challenge it. So the battle is not only what you do, it's what you believe. It all boils down to which voice are you going to believe. All right, I see this one. JB said, we all human, just got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. Okay, all right. But there's another part to that, and know when to walk away, even know when to run. So you're going to have to challenge those voices. Because lies feel powerful when they sound familiar. It's amazing that the lie can keep returning. And now it's to the point where I can't get it out of my head. So here it is. The battle is not only what you do, it's what you believe. There will be all types of voices. And you have to be able to discern which voice is which. And not every voice belongs there. Not every voice you're supposed to believe. Not every voice is the truth. Some voices and thoughts are just flat out lies. You know you didn't need that. Why did you question it again? You know where that's going to take you. Then why did you look at it again? You know how that's going to affect you. Then why did you buy that again? It's not only what you do, it's also what you believe. If you're still at the table, give me thumbs up. If you're still at the table, give me some thumbs up. Give me some thumbs up. The voices in your head, who's really talking? It's amazing because quickly you can look at Eve's story, but it's not until you start to break it down even more, you begin to see how powerful those conversations or that conversation can be. Have you ever had a conversation in your head? Who are you arguing with? Conversation in your head, who are you arguing with? It's not always what you do, but it's also what you believe. Powerful conversation that shines light on what we're experiencing today. And it's easy to say what Eve should have done or would have done or could have done until you find yourself walking in that same garden in your own life. And you realize, even though I know the right voice, here's my voice trying to talk over the voice I already know is right. But then here comes another outside voice that's trying to dress up temptation. And it's not always what you do, is which voice are you going to believe? So you can have a thought that felt so real, so strong, so loud, and you acted on it. And then later you realize, that wasn't even me. Where did I get that thought from? The voice in your head, who's really talking? Who's really talking? Because lies can feel powerful when they start to sound familiar. So in order to discern the voices or the thought, identify the thought. Run it through the test. And not give every thought your trust. Just because it shows up doesn't mean it belongs there. Just because it shows up doesn't mean it's your voice. And if it shows up there and is surviving, is it going off my own desire? Wow. I can feel the table shaking. Somebody got up from the table. The voice in your head, who's really talking? Remember this, that the battle is not only what you do, is what you believe. There will be many thoughts competing for your attention to try to get your agreement. Well, whose voice are you going to believe? I'm Thomas E. Cunningham. Thanks for being honest with yourself tonight. We're here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Until then, don't forget to notice it, name it, and nail it with truth. I'll see you all next Thursday.